Hey everyone, Rich Gassaway here. Before I get into today's episode, I want to let you know that I have a few openings left in November and December for situational awareness programs. If your department or region hasn't hosted a training program yet on situational awareness yet, don't delay. The issues related to situational awareness and the barriers that flaw awareness are implicated in nearly every significant firefighter casualty report. It's a really, really big deal. The problem is most firefighters know so little about it. They think so long as they pay attention or keep their head on a swivel, they'll have good situational awareness. Those people who think that really are just uninformed about what situational awareness is. And you can't afford to be uninformed about a topic that's this important, a topic that can literally save your life. There's too much at stake because situational awareness becomes the foundation for the decision making that's going to drive the outcomes, be they successful or catastrophic. If you're interested in getting a program booked, visit my website, samatters.com, click on the Contact Us link, and we'll get something set up for you. It really is that easy. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Tiger Schmittendorf, Deputy Fire Coordinator for the Erie County Department of Emergency Services. You're listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gassaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello, and welcome to episode 126 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Mesa, Arizona, where I just got done delivering the keynote address for the Arizona State Fire School. This was an amazing event. There were over 1,000 first responders in attendance for this keynote. The topic was creating the thinking first responder. It is perhaps one of the most thought-provoking keynote topics that I do. To assert that first responders may be acting without thinking, and that leads to near misses and casualty events. During the keynote, I explain, in a very friendly and somewhat humorous way, the neuroscience behind how the brain learns. And then I give specific examples of how first responders are being trained to act without thinking, which results in casualties. And then they're criticized by their peers because what they did seemed so senseless. The topic is an outgrowth of a longer program called Training for Failure, where I help company officers and training officers understand how to train properly in teaching cognitive memory and muscle memory. If you're interested in that topic, you can book me for a live event, or even easier, just get the DVD. It's in the SA Matters store. The topic must have resonated well with the attendees in Arizona. Dozens of them stopped by the book signing and purchased the DVD and situational awareness books. And thanks for supporting my mission. 100% of the proceeds from books and videos are reinvested back into program development and research to improve first responder safety. Thanks to Chief Eric Cryer for the amazing hospitality during my visit. Wow, the people in Arizona were so nice and treated me so well. Okay, I made mention in previous episodes about rolling out the new Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. This is the second version, so we'll call it 2.0, if you will. The first version was good, but this one's even better. Instead of modules, it got mini courses. They'll last 30 minutes to 2 hours. Department training officers can track participation. There'll be quizzes along the way to verify knowledge is actually being transferred to the learner. I know there are many departments that can't, for one reason or another, host a live Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event. The Academy will be an affordable way for your department to get this valuable life-saving content taught by me. Your personnel will be able to take the class in bite-sized increments, and the whole organization can become proficient on the topics of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. Now you're probably wondering when's it going to come out. Well, not for a little while yet, maybe December or January. Why so long? Because I'm using professional curriculum developers to make sure that the Academy gives you a robust learning experience. It's going to be awesome, really. I've received a lot of emails asking about when the Academy's coming back. So I know the demand is there for it. Just be patient. I am going to do something called pre-sales, where we're going to be offering some discounts on the Academy. So if you're looking to get in from the start, be listening here, watching my website, watching the newsletter, watching social media for promotions and discounts. That'll all be coming out soon, maybe October, November. Oh, and speaking of the newsletter, starting in September, I transitioned the monthly newsletter to being a weekly newsletter. Much shorter, much quicker to go through. The monthly newsletter contained a lot of material, and it was just really too much for readers to take in one sitting. Now the newsletter will come weekly, and I'm guessing maybe it'll take you 3 minutes to 5 minutes to get through it. At least that's my goal. I get asked all the time, when are you coming to my area? So I can attend a program, or where are you going to be next? It really is easy for you to find out because I post my schedule of upcoming events right on the homepage of the SA Matters website. Just click on the blue box on the right side labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. By the way, more than 500 agencies on 4 continents have hosted a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event. If you're interested in hosting, there are a few, like I said at the top of the program, few openings left in November, December. Just go to SA Matters website, click on the contact us link. We'll get something set up for you. To be fair, and so there's no surprises, I am going to cap the number of programs that I do in 2017. I'm doing this to spend more time with my family. That's something I haven't done very good at in the past, and I am resolved to do better. So as demand increases, I have added my first master instructor, someone who will teach the content in my place. And I'll be adding more as the demand picks up. But if you're looking to book me, you want me, now's the time to get me on your schedule. Swing by the SA Matters website, click on the Contact Us link. If you want to save some money, here's a tip for how you can do that. I host many what I call companion programs. These are programs on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm delivering a program a couple hours from where your department is and you think you might want to tag along as a companion, contact me. You can save as much as 20% off the program cost by being a companion to an existing program. I do roughly 30 companion programs each year. No one ever complains about saving some money on the travel expenses. I'd call that a win-win. Okay, in today's feature segment, I'm going to interview Birmingham, Alabama, Assistant Fire Chief of Operations Floyd Buddy Wilks Jr. about a near-miss event that he was involved in. I'm going to get right into the feature segment, but when I get done, stick around, and I'm going to announce where the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops are. All right, so let's jump into the feature segment, an interview with Birmingham Assistant Fire Chief of Operations Floyd Buddy Wilks Jr.
It was February 14th, 2014. It was around 1:30 in the morning here in Birmingham. We received a call to a structure fire at 505 12th Street West. It's right on the edge of my battalion. At that time, I was a battalion chief in our 1st Battalion. A little bit about Birmingham background so far is we're a city of about 156 square miles. We have 32 fire stations, around 700 employees, and divided into 4 battalions. We're doing right around 60,000 calls a year. The uniqueness of this night was we had just gone through a snow event on the 12th. Snow event in Alabama is 2 or 3 inches. We kind of shut down. So I had actually got called in on the 12th, a shift before mine. So I worked the 13th in our regular shift. So this was at the end of our regular shift. Wasn't an unnormal call for us that time of night to have a structure fire call. Structure fire call for us gives 3 engines, a ladder company or a quint company. We run two regular ladder companies in the city, and then we have 3 quint companies that help support ladder operations. an ALS unit. We call them rescue units in Birmingham, but it's a paramedic ambulance with 2 firefighter paramedics on board, and a battalion chief and a safety officer. We are fortunate that we do have a 24-hour safety officer on duty for citywide incidents.
What kind of staffing do you have on your engines and your ladder?
We usually it's a 3 staffing on engines and 4 on ladders. We try to keep 4 on everything, but shortages and everything else is hard to do. So we kind of base everything off a 3 engine, 4 ladder response is how we're going with this.
Okay. Now, is the snow gone, or you still have snow on the ground at this point?
No, by this time it's gone, so we don't have any traffic problems, road problems at this time. But it does play into the incident later on. When I get kind of talking about the incident later on, it will have a play into the incident.
Okay. And you're on a 48 now because you came in a day early, so you did like 48 straight.
Well, it's not. I'm probably about 36. I came in about 12 hours early.
Okay.
On the night before.
Okay.
So and a lot of my crew members were the same way. So everybody's into a 36. I have a couple that's in a 48 zone, but that's kind of where about everybody is because of this event.
Oh, okay.
So on the dispatch, I did notice that a couple of companies that I normally would have had on this call were not on the dispatch. So I kind of knew right off the bat I had my Quint company was going to be my first company on the scene, which, they got firefighting capabilities, 300 gallons of water, those kind of things. I generally don't like my Quint companies to lay supply lines, but they do if necessary. So that was kind of my first heads up that, now I'm dealing with my 3rd, 4th, and 5th view companies that'll be coming in to assist.
The other companies are out on other calls?
That's what I'm assuming at the time that they were out on other medical calls at the time.
Is this does this slow the response then? If you're getting 3rd, 4th, and 5th due, what you would normally have on the scene is not going to come at the same speed, or not speed, but
they're going to be a little bit of delay. The first view company is probably less than, I'd say, 8-9 blocks from the scene.
Okay.
If they were in quarters, so they would have definitely been first on the scene. The second view company is just a little bit further away from them, but still would have been arriving fairly quickly. So when we arrived on the scene, our Quint company did get there first. We were in the same house, so I was right behind him. Reported, a 2-story brick residential structure with heavy fire showing from the Delta Charlie corner of the structure. Once again, not an unusual fire call for us. The area of town I worked in, that was a working structure fire every day was not an uncommon event. So everything's just kind of going normal. I arrived on the scene. What
describe the size of this structure for me? Because houses in different communities are very different sizes. So frame it up.
Well, this is one of the unique things about this incident. Excuse me. The houses here were real close together. Looking from the street, it looked probably, I'm going to say 1,500 square foot, 2-level structure. Houses real close together. It's an older part of the community. These houses were probably built in the 50s in this area. With it being close together, I assumed command and told the Quint crew to go ahead and take a line to the exposure because it was impinging on exposure. Let's go ahead and protect the exposure. Until we get a supply line laid. Went in and gave the order for the next company in to lay a supply line. So I started doing my 360, which I always, every fire I went to, I got out of my vehicle, I grabbed my thermal imager, and I started doing a 360. I noticed real quick about this fire was I had 2 levels below grade. Once we got up there were steps going down, and there were 2 levels below grade, full basements residential area below grade. I had 2 levels above grade. So, and putting it all together, this was really a 4-story structure. So my first thought was, okay, I need to check the first sub-level to make sure I don't have fire in that level that's burning through to the main ground level. So that was one of my concerns. I had the crew was attacking, trying to protect the exposure. They were I asked them to try to see if you can do a transitional attack to see if you can try to knock some of the fire down while we're putting everything in place. And that was kind of ineffective because by the time they got in position, they're three floors down, and they just can't get a good hit on the fire. As I'm doing my 360, I can't do a complete 360 because of the fence, but I know it's a car in the backyard, in a driveway in the back. So that's kind of red flag, residential area, 1:30 in the morning. Okay, I got a car. So come back up. Second company has arrived on the scene, laying supply line. I ordered them to go ahead and check the first sub-level basement. Do we have any fire on that level? Go ahead and do a check of that. I come back around trying to get down to Bravo. I went down the Delta side of the structure to begin with, so I'm trying to get around the Bravo side. And there's another car in the front driveway. And I look inside the car and notice 3 car seats, child car seats in the back seat of the car. So, red flags going up. I said, okay, we got possibly people in this structure. We're putting things together. The fire is still heavily involved in the Charlie Delta side of the house. Had heavy smoke blowing out of windows on the top floor of the structure. So I'm getting concerned right now. I go over and found some citizens standing on the road, asked them if they are in this house, and they said no. Said we don't know where the people are. We have not seen them. So everything heightens up even more then. So by this time, the other crews are arriving on the scene. I'm really aware that we're in a pretty bad situation as far as fire development. This fire has really taken control of this house, but I really felt like we had a strong possibility of somebody being in the house. So I gathered the engine company in and gave them orders, hey, we're going to go inside, and we've got to do a sweep on this first floor and to just see if we got anybody in this house. We've got to do this check. I didn't feel like it was safe enough to put anybody on the second floor, but I felt like we could get into the first floor and do a search there. I got an engine company together, told them to go in, made that officer my interior division, told them, go in, your job is just find the fire and hold the fire and let my rescue crew do a search. I got the rescue crew together, told them, I want you to do a sweep of the first floor. I even told them, I want you to take a tagline with you because I've got this feeling that this is not good. We're in a bad situation here. I had my third due engine company arrive on the scene, made them my RIT team, and I said, listen, go ahead and start laddering the Bravo side, get some burglar bars off the windows because we're going to do a search. So I felt like I'm putting things in place. I even called for a second alarm coming in. I got a big house. That gives me 3 more engines, another ladder, another paramedic unit, another battalion chief coming in. So I'm putting all these things in place. So I even told them, I said, okay, let's go ahead and set a fan up. Let's get positive pressure going once the crews enter, and maybe we can help hold the fire back intact for just a few minutes so we can do a sweep and clear the house. So everything's going on. I'm moving back to my vehicle, getting my command board set up. When from on scene to this event happening was probably 6-7 minutes tops. I know we're getting into several minutes. We're probably 6-7 minutes into the incident when everything goes wrong. I'm at the command post and I hear a loud noise, and enough to catch my attention. I turned around to look, and I didn't see anything right off the hand, but I noticed immediately that the smoke conditions had rapidly changed at the front door. to where I've had little or no smoke pushing out the front door to heavy volumes of smoke pushing out the front door. And the next event was all of a sudden a large push of smoke came out the front door almost across to the street where I was standing. And I looked, there was a big picture window on the front of the house, and I could see fire rolling across the ceiling and coming down the window. And at that point in time, my interior division officer called the mayday. And so we had a rapid changing event happen to us. So I immediately called, confirmed the mayday, had our alarm dispatch sent off emergency tones, asked for the RIT team to deploy to the A side, for Engine 14. The officer in Engine 14 did a great job with his mayday. He did his lunar report. He came through, but his first question came out was, he said he's lost contact with his crew and he doesn't have contact with his nozzleman. So I'm thinking, honestly, as an incident commander, I'm thinking I have just burned up 7 firemen. That's truly what's going through my head. And I called from our rescue crew had gone a search, trying to get a report from them, and I get no radio report from them. So once again, I go ahead and order the RIT team to deploy to the A side. By this time, the Engine 14 officer, who was my interior division, comes back and said he had located the missing firefighter and they were exiting the structure. Long story short, everybody exits. We did a PAR check. Once everybody checked, everybody got out of the structure. My rescue crew, I still had trouble, getting a radio report from them that was doing the search. But after listening to the tapes, they were answering me, but because of radio traffic, they were just getting covered up. But everybody got out of the structure. We had no injuries, no burns, nothing. Just a blessing that we didn't have anybody injured.
What caused the crew to get separated?
It was just the event. Their statement was all they knew was they had a big rush of beer for them, and it just overtook them just almost immediately. That was one of the issues. We couldn't really determine what happened because the lieutenant on the engine crew that called the mayday said when they entered, they really didn't have any high heat issues. They had low visibility as normal, but he said there was just nothing that was telling them they didn't need to be in there. That the crew that was doing the search, the first floor, they kind of gave the same indication that there was just really no indications that they didn't need to be in there, no high heat. Of course, visibility was extremely low, but they said the same thing. They just saw a ball of fire, coming toward them and didn't know what happened. So, the only thing we can figure possibly happened was there was a ceiling collapse or something on that CD corner. We had another crew going in and with a backup line to back them up. When the alarms went off in Mayday, they were telling me they didn't even know what happened. And they were at the front door. They had realized what had happened. So, and that's kind of the nutshell of what happened. Just kind of one of these things of you kind of sensing that something's wrong, but you have to do the job you have to do, and you put everything in place to try to keep everybody safe, but things can still go bad on you.
Mm-hmm. Were there any civilians inside?
No, there were nobody inside the house. That goes back to the snow event we had. Come to find out, they actually show up about an hour or so later, and because of the snow, they had lost power. And so the family, it was a mother or a family with 10 kids were living in this house. And they had gone to a relative's in a city south of town, stayed for the night because they had lost power. And that was just a blessing, a blessing that they were not at home.
Mm-hmm. What did they investigate the cause of the fire? Since the house didn't have power, that eliminates a whole lot of potential causes.
It was a candle. They had candles lit in the kitchen area for light, and had left the house with the candle burning. Okay.
Wow. Now, the crew that was inside, the Engine 14 crew, once he got with the rest of his crew, did they come out?
Yes, sir. They came right out. He said they just, as the fire came toward them, they just kind of, both of them just kind of, hit the floor, and just that quick, disorientation, the event happening, and but I mean, Lieutenant Wright, he did an awesome job. I mean, the thing out there now is, wearing your radio strap under your coat with your mic tucked, coming out the top of the coat. And that's kind of how they're teaching. And that's the way he was. He did that. And he said when he turned and went to the floor, to avoid the fireball, he said one thing was his microphone for his radio was right there. He grabbed right there and called the mayday immediate. And and the other firefighter had just, when he turned around, to avoid the fire coming at him, he had just got off the hose line. And but Lieutenant Wright calling for him, Lieutenant Wright had the hose line. He never lost contact with the hose line, but he started hollering. He stayed with that and actually found the guy. He was probably a foot off the hose line when he found it.
Mm-hmm. And when you say, I think you said that they were on the first floor. Is this the first floor from the front of the house?
Yes, the grade level floor.
Grade level floor.
Yes.
Okay. And then besides Engine 14, who else was inside?
Rescue 20's crew. That's just my paramedic unit with two firefighters. Actually, that day the captain, the Quint company, they do a rotation thing, and he is a paramedic, and he was his day to rotate over to the ambulance for that day. So the captain of the my Quint crew was actually on the rescue, and he's one of those firefighters as an instant commander. You want him on every scene you go to, and that's why I kind of had a confident feel that we could get him inside and do a quick search, and get out without any incident. And that's kind of one of the reasons I even decided to go that route as an instant commander.
Mm-hmm. Now, after the mayday was called, did Rescue 20 continue the search, or did they leave too?
They came on out too. I went ahead and asked for a complete evacuation of the structure. And by this time, the entire back of the house, from Bravo's side to Delta side, Charlie, was fully involved, and it's going to have an impending roof collapse on that side of the structure. So I went ahead and just called a complete defensive and called everybody out of the structure.
Okay. So at that point, when you go defensive and call everybody out, you're still thinking that there are victims inside because they don't show up until an hour later.
Yes, I'm still thinking there, but at this point in time, there's no way. Second floor, there's just no way of survivability. And talking to the rescue crew that was doing the search, they actually got the living room. When you went in the front door, there was a living room into a dining room, and they had swept that floor and actually had found the stairs to the second level and had actually kind of searched up the stairs just a little bit when everything happened. So that area there, what I felt like we could search quickly and safely, we were able to search.
Mm-hmm. Which was none of the second floor, right? Didn't ever make it up to the second floor?
Never made it up to the second floor, no, sir.
Okay. So kind of describe for me what that feels like for you when you have to make that decision between there's victims inside and we're going to go in and rescue them, and there's victims inside and there's nothing we can do anymore. What is that? Does that weigh on you, or is it just for you hey, it's a matter of business. That's just how it goes.
No, I mean, that's a big burden of an incident commander to make those decisions. I tell people all the time that, for years in my career, I was that guy that right in the front door every time, no questions asked. We're going in offensive. We're going to get there and knock the firehouse as quick as possible. That's the kind of person I was. And when I made captain back in 2006, our captains work up in the battalion chief role when vacancies are there. And I had my first fire working that position, and it was a tough fire, and I had to get people inside the structure. It was a vacant structure. I had to get people inside, or I felt like we were going to burn down 2 occupied structures. And so I got crews inside, but it was at that fire that I realized as instant commander that the burden of the decisions that you have to make and the effects it can have on your personnel is that you're making the decisions that could get somebody hurt or even killed. And so that's a big burden. But on this incident here, it was, I knew that the car in the front yard with 3 child car seats, in it, I mean, people don't leave, without the car seats. And
right.
So that just really just had me as like, I may experience a multi-fatality fire here on this instant. And not only that, the thought of what I just possibly lost 7 firefighters in this whole thing. So it was a big, big weight on me.
Okay, we're going to get plugged back into our interview with Chief Wilks in just a moment. But for now, I have a big favor to ask. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you like it, help me out by going over to iTunes and giving it a rating and a review. I need some mutual aid here. Seriously. Step up and help me out. If you don't rate the show, how will I ever know if you like it? Or how will I know if I'm doing what you want me to do? If you want to give me suggestions on how to improve the show, shoot me an email by going to the Contact Us link on the SA Matters website. If you're not a subscriber to the show, please subscribe. If you are a subscriber, consider reaching out and contacting somebody you know that you think might benefit from a show like this and the lessons that I'm sharing. Okay, let's get back into our interview with Chief Wilks, where he shares the lessons learned from this near-miss event. What I want to ask you now is, what lessons did you learn from this incident that the listeners may be able to take away from this experience that you had with this near miss?
For me, it was there were really a lot of positives that came out of it. I think it was positives of we had a good size up. I felt like I had a pretty good size up. That we had a plan together. Met with all the officers right off the bat before we ever did this, and told them specifically what their job was, and each one of them, this is what your job. They each knew exactly what their role was. I think, learning from here is that I try to put all the safety precautions in place, having the RIT team in place, having my search team with a tagline in place, having a line going to the fire, having a backup line in place, having all these things in place. I think that was a lesson learned that, have a plan, realizing, the magnitude of the incident you're going into, the seriousness of it, the dangers that your people are going in place, but try to put the pieces in motion that they can try to perform their duties, but be as safe as possible. Even though we had a mayday call, we wound up with 0 injuries out of this, and to me, that's just a blessing to me.
Now, as an incident commander, BC at the time, had you managed a mayday before, or was this your first mayday?
This was my first one. This was the first one. I had been involved in one as a company officer where we had a firefighter fall through a floor, but from the instant commander standpoint, this was my very first one.
So describe your stress level when you hear the mayday on the radio.
It's I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it truly is just a gut-wrenching, sinking, sickening feeling, especially when you're in this instant. I was visually watching the instant happen, with the push of the smoke out the door, the fire rolling across the picture window. That was just, it was just gut-wrenching. I mean, just really and truly gut-wrenching. I mean, the audio tape, you can hear the change in my voice. That it was truly the fear that I have lost several firefighters in this incident.
Now, at that point, were you alone as the commander?
Yes, at this point I was.
And
I was.
Do you think it would have been valuable or helpful to you if there was a second person there beside you when the mayday was called that could have helped you, either manage radio traffic or scribe for you or something like that?
Yeah, I think especially the radio traffic part of it would have been a big help. There's somebody else listening to the radio when we were trying to get the initial PARs completed because, myself, I missed a couple of the PAR calls right off the bat where the Rescue 20, I called them several times. I couldn't get, reports of their status. But listening back to the tapes, that they actually were responding to me. Mm-hmm. And then also through the initial roll call PAR check, as I actually missed my RIT team on the initial call in. I was going through my list and actually skipped over my RIT team and didn't get a PAR from them initially. Mm-hmm. So
were you going off memory with that, or did you actually were you actually following something that you had already written down, or were you taking your roll call from memory?
A little bit of both. When this went down, I had just moved back to my car, had my command board out, had just started writing things on my command board when all this happened. But from memory, I knew what I had each crew assigned to do, what their assignments were. At that time, I had Engine 6 was checking the first sub-level for any fire and doing a search down there. I had Engine 14 doing fire attack. I had Rescue 20 doing the search and rescue. I had Engine 21 was my RIT team, and I had Quint 20 moving into back up the attack team. Mm-hmm. So I kind of, I had all the officers, we kind of met real quick in the front yard, and I detailed what each one of them was what their job was in the scenario. So everybody had a good understanding. So I kind of knew where everybody was at that time.
Mm-hmm. And do you use radio? Do you have a headset muffs on, or when you're in the command vehicle, or are you just listening to like an external speaker?
Just the external speaker.
Okay.
We have the headsets because one of my things I do is, especially in an expanding incident, is that I definitely will hand the radio off to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I'll assign a resource unit leader and maybe even a assistant back there, and we'll tell one of them, you get the headphones on, you just listen to the radio, and I'll step back from the command. As far as that part of the command, working the board or listening to radio, I'll try to step back from that. Mm-hmm. And but this is, we just hadn't got there. I mean, normal house fire for us, I probably would not go that far with my command procedures. But I'd actually had moved back to the car because I'd called in a second alarm, so I was trying to get things in order for that.
Mm-hmm. And when under normal working conditions, when the 2nd Battalion arrives, what role would they do for you? Absent the mayday, under a normal working fire scenario.
They'll usually take over the role as an operations section chief, and we'll kind of just, the IC will step back and start looking at the broader picture of the incident and let the 2nd DU Battalion chief handle the tactical side of the incident. It really depends on the size of the incident. So There are times that the 2nd VIEW Battalion Chief may take command, and the 1st VIEW Chief stay in operations, since he's already got the action plan working, kind of knows more about what's going on. So sometimes we'll flip those roles. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times the 2nd VIEW Chief will just take an operations section chief or a division commander, just depending on the incident. But and that's what happened. Like the 2nd VIEW Chief, I assigned him. We got our par checks. I assigned him. You take operations. Let's go defensive. I let him handle it, and I just stepped back and took a breather.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had said that the first alarm assignment included a safety officer. Was a safety officer on scene by the time the mayday was called?
Yeah, he had just arrived on the scene. Actually, he arrived on the scene. I gave him a brief report over the radio because we were initiating the search. Kind of told him where companies were, where they were located, what was going on, and he usually, when he arrived on the scene, his thing was the same as mine. He would go try to do a 360 himself, take a look at the structure, and when it all happened, he was actually on the Charlie side of the structure when everything went down.
Okay, and you saw that big push of smoke out the front. Did he see anything going on in the back at that time? Was there anything coordinated in the back happening?
No, sir. So nothing in the back. Just heavy. We still had a heavy volume of fire off the back. But right after we got everybody out and the par check was good, I gave a report we're going defensive, and he came out and gave a report of an impending structural collapse on the Charlie side of the structure.
Okay. Now, at any time after you pulled everybody out, I assume that the fire crews know, there's 2 cars, one's got 3 car seats, that they're high probability that there are victims inside. At any time, did anybody come up to you and say, hey, Chief, I think we can get we can make an entry here and search this area of the house? Did anybody, try to assert themselves to go back in and try to reconvene a search?
Actually, nobody did. It was everybody I think everybody kind of knew where we were at that time. That we had tried to make the entry, tried to make a search, but realized that at that point in time, survivability was going to be very, very little for any occupants in that structure at that time.
Mm-hmm. Now, the question, the last, I say the last question, I'm not exactly sure this will be the last question, but what would conditions have to be like for you to arrive on a structure, residential structure, with the potential of people entrapped, and from the get-go call it defensive? Because here you went offensive, and then 6 or 7 minutes of effort, into it, kind of got driven out. What would the conditions be like for you? Have to be like for you to say right from your first arrival, I'm calling this defensive straight up, even though there's a car in the driveway with 3 car seats. What would that be like?
I think I'd have to look at the volume of fire that is showing, and where is the fire located in the structure? Does it have 50% of the structure? How much is involved? Do I feel like it's involved? Looking at the structure itself, as far as the integrity of the structure, just from a normal use, is the deplorable conditions around the structure. Those kind of things I'd look at. Look at the, how's the smoke pushing? Is it just floor to ceiling at the front door and all the way through? And make that risk assessment of what is the survivability chance of somebody in a structure. Mm-hmm. Can somebody be isolated in a room? Yeah, it could happen. But, what's the chances of us getting into a structure that's heavy volume, high velocity smoke that's down to the floor, and actually being able to do a complete search in a structure safely to, even if we found somebody, could we still get them out? Mm-hmm. And so, it's a lot of things you have to put into, and that decision. And like I said, as an incident commander or even a company officer, that's one of the hardest decisions you'll ever have to make, is making that call, go or no go.
For sure. And I speak a lot to that in the situational awareness classes, because it's one thing to have good situational awareness, and if your situational awareness says we shouldn't go, but you still go against your better judgment, then you're kind of just trudging over what your SA is telling you is don't go, but you go anyhow. And you're right, that is a tough decision to. Well,
one of the things you said when you came down to Alabama for your conference back during the summer was, I'm probably misinterpreting here, but don't get in the way of outcomes you can't change.
Oh, yep.
And so, I mean, that's just one of the big things. If I go in, am I going to change an outcome? And so, if I can't change that, how can I, what's the risk to my personnel to get in?
Right.
So, and that's just a hard decision that has to be made.
It is. And, as I share that lesson in the programs, I tie it back to the casualty reports of how many first responders I see getting in the way of outcomes that they're not going to change, and then they become a victim of that outcome, and therefore we have a report to read about their casualty, and that's a fine line of being able to make that judgment call of if we can change the outcome or not. We train to, we aspire to, we take an oath of office to. The customer on the street expects us to, but in reality, we can't always change the outcome. Like on this one, once you pulled them out and went defensive, if there were people inside, the outcome was going to be you were going to have civilian fatalities, and you were not going to be able to change that outcome without putting your firefighters in a what I would call a created risk situation. And you're so spot on with saying that is probably one of the toughest calls you'll have to make as a first arriving company officer or as an incident commander.
It is. It's that's one of those size up decisions you got to do every time. And I know there's controversies out there between the transitional tag versus going right in the front door every time. And, I'm a believer in the transitional tag. I've done it numerous times. It works. But it's not the right tactic for every fire.
Right.
And it's because you to do a size up. You've got to do a size up. And, trying to get people to understand, these conditions are terrible right now. Survivability, what's the chance of survivability? We don't know. But if I go ahead and hit that fire from a window and knock it down, I'm increasing the chances of survivability, of somebody into the structure. So we can get people inside safely and do these things. So it's that whole picture of getting the whole picture. I'm a firm believer in doing a 360, and with a thermal imager, it's just trying to get people to few months after, probably a year before the incident, where we actually had 2 firefighters burned, and one of the contributing factors was they never did a 360. The officer never did a 360. They thought the fire was on the second floor. They go up the stairs, and actually was a split level house, and the fire actually started in the first level, the split level, and it burned through the floor. And they got caught in the flow path, and the fire got behind them, burned the hose line in two. And we wound up with 2 burned firefighters, and which both of them recovered. They're back at work and everything. But it's just one of those decisions. You have to get the whole picture, and sometimes you got to make those hard calls.
Yeah.
And
for those who spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, but some time with the line of duty death reports, it is painstakingly obvious how often there are incomplete or non-existent 360 size-ups as a contributing factor to the casualty. You'll see it time and time and time again. It'll say no 360, or 360 was started and then abandoned. But you're when you say how strong of a proponent you are for that 360, that dovetails right into the situational awareness lesson that before we start throwing around solutions, we better figure out what the problem is first, and then devise a solution that fits the problem. And if we arrive and we start throwing around solutions and we don't know what the problem is, we might find ourselves right in the middle of that problem.
Oh yeah, I mean you've got to look at that, the whole thing. And another incident actually happened about 3 months after this one, where a company officer arrived on the scene. It was one of my fires, and he met the occupant in the driveway. It's hard to describe without a good visual, but he's facing the structure. Her back is to the structure, and she says everybody's out, but the fire's in the back left bedroom. And so if her back's to the structure, her left is the Charlie Delta corner. The company officer thought the Bravo Charlie corner because it was his left. That's the way he visualized it. So when he didn't do a 360, he said, "Oh, we got this." They go in and they start searching for the fire. They can't get back there. I finally called them and said, "Listen, back out. We need to reset, try this again." After my 360, I found the fire on the Charlie Delta corner with the thermal imager. I call them out. They get disoriented. Next thing I know, they're bailing out windows because they've lost the hose line, taking windows out and everything. And come to find out, they probably didn't make it 10 foot in the house, and they probably never would have found the bedroom because the house was so cut up. But if he had just done a 360, we might have changed our entire tactics and just went to that Charlie Delta corner, popped that window, maybe done a transitional tack, and completely changed the entire outcome of the incident. So, I mean, it's doing that 360 and getting a good picture and getting all your crews to understand what the plan is. That's the key.
Yeah, great advice. Well, we've been at this almost an hour, and what a great story! What great lessons learned! I love the fact that your lessons learned were all positive lessons, not lessons about, well, we made this mistake and this mistake. Although we can learn from those mistakes, your lessons were really tied to some things that you did right and things that you did well, that in spite of the circumstances the crews faced, you end up with a good outcome from a bad incident. I have to tell you that it takes a lot of courage to come on to a show and to share the details of a near miss, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing these details. We'd had a brief conversation when I was in Alabama about the incident, and as I asked you, as I asked so many people, would you like to come on the show and be interviewed? And you said yes. Now I have a lot of people tell me yes, but far less of them that actually step up and do it. And so I really appreciate the fact that you stepped up, shared the lessons, because there are some really good takeaways here for the fire service, and you are going to help with this story, help make the fire service safer. So for that, I thank you very much.
I appreciate you having me on. Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Before we go off, I talked earlier about the noise. I heard a noise.
Yeah.
Before the event happened.
Yeah.
It was the positive pressure fan vibrating off the porch.
And fell down.
It had fallen and fell down. And one of my questions was, did we have control of the flow path? And when the fan fell off the porch with that pressure, it could immediately release the pressure, and that's what, caused the event, was a factor in causing the event. Don't know, but that's what the noise was. It was the fan falling off the porch. So another lesson learned was, if you're going to go positive pressure, make sure that fan stays in place.
Well, there's no doubt that if that fan fell, whatever influence that fan was having prior to it falling was no longer occurring.
Right.
Whatever that was, as far as creating whatever kind of path or pressurization inside. As soon as the fan fell off the porch, then that was done, and that happened just prior to the rapid change of conditions that caused the mayday.
Well, yes, sir.
Yeah, you'd have to think that was a contributing factor to that. Yeah, thanks for following back and explaining that. Because I did hear you say the noise, but I don't know, for some reason I just thought it was the smoke, pushing out the front door or something that made the noise, but it was the fan. Very interesting. All right, Chief, thank you for joining me.
All right, well, thank you very much.
And the crowd goes wild. That's my studio audience. Yeah. Hey, if you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, please contact me by visiting the SAMatters.com site and clicking on the Contact Us link on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near miss, like the ones that Chief Wilks just talked about, could save the life of other first responders. If you want to share your experience, contact me. Okay, as I always do, I want to take a moment to thank the departments and organizations that have hosted some recent Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events. I do this to show my appreciation to those organizations that put forth the effort, the time, and the money to host great training experiences for their members and others in their region. Your effort to bring this valuable and powerful training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making is very appreciated. Recent tour stops included the Heartland Deerfield Fire Department in Michigan, and where I am now, the Arizona State Fire School in Mesa. Also, by the time this episode airs, my newly trained and minted certified master instructor, Fire Chief Jerry Strike, will have completed his first, program for the Southwest Fire and EMS Chiefs Association in Meridian, Idaho. Also, by the time this episode airs, I will have completed a program for the Upper Providence Township Fire Department in Pennsylvania. That's near Philadelphia, or probably closer to Valley Forge if you know that area. If you're interested in attending an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event, you can join me on September 23rd at the Wisconsin Fire Chiefs Association Conference in La Crosse, Wisconsin. September 27th, a program for the International Association of Fire Chiefs Company Officer Leadership Seminar in Cincinnati. I'll be doing 2 programs there, Training for Failure and Flawed Situational Awareness. September 29th, a program for the Welcome Fire Department in Fairmont, Minnesota. September 30th, the Sioux Falls Fire Department. I'm giving the keynote for their recruit class graduation. October 1, the Howard Fire Department in Howard, South Dakota. October 17th, the Montana APCO Conference in Great Falls, Montana. October 19th, Firehouse Expo in Nashville, a full-day situational awareness program there. Thank you, Tim Sendelbach, for that opportunity. October 28th, the North Dakota Hazmat Conference in Bismarck, North Dakota. Thank you so much to all the program hosts, and here's hoping there'll be a tour stop near you and we'll get a chance to meet up. Recently, while I was in Minnesota, I visited my sponsor for this podcast, Midwest Fire. Midwest makes amazing all-poly fire apparatus that's changing the industry. You seriously need to check them out. Go there, MidwestFire.com, MidwestFire.com, and look at all-poly fire apparatus. Anyhow, while I was there, I got a chance to sit down and talk to a few of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Let's listen into the conversation I had with engineer Tyler LeBrun about lean manufacturing and how this differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Let's listen in. So Tyler, in a conversation that we had earlier, you mentioned the term lean process or lean manufacturing, and then when we were out on the shop floor, you were like snapping around these Japanese terms that I guess in the lean manufacturing world means something. What is all this voodoo magic of lean manufacturing or lean process? What does it mean, and why would a customer even care that you run a lean facility?
Well, one of the big things with lean is it's very focused on the customer. Basically, you look at it as what the customer is willing to pay for. There's waste in our process. There's waste in everybody's process that they have if they own any type of business. And what waste is defined as is anything the customer is not willing to pay for. We had a good example down there of, maybe you've been to some different shops and seen stuff just scattered around everywhere, like maybe a floor jack, like somebody used it and left it right there. Well, now the next time somebody wants to go find that floor jack, if they've got to walk around for 5 or 10 minutes, that's a waste that the customer's not willing to pay for. They don't want our guys to be down here wandering around looking for parts. They want them to be putting things onto their truck, and that stuff is value added. The walking around and stuff that you're not willing to pay for is non-value added. And that's really what drives down and brings us to be able to offer something better to the customer, that we are building a truck more efficiently, which obviously passes savings on to them. We talked about our inventory control system, Kanban, one of those fun Japanese words, that basically allows for a system to be around our parts ordering, that the operators control that they go down, they reach a minimum point, they pull a card, they do that kind of stuff, but the parts are always there for them. Not only are the parts always there, but there's not an excess amount of those parts, which costs us money to carry, which we would then obviously, no doubt, have to pass on to the customer. But by reducing all these costs, getting rid of all the waste, we're really able to better give the customer a more quality truck, faster and possibly at less cost than a competitor.
So everybody here, I assume, has to go through some training to learn how to be part of a lean process manufacturing?
Yep. So there's a couple of different ways that we've done that. There's been some guys that have been able to go out and do actual hands-on training at some seminars or that kind of stuff. We've also gone out and taken tours of some real-world class facilities in the area that we've been lucky enough to have. We also do some mentorship. That's something that I've been able to take my experience and kind of help the guys look at all that kind of stuff. But it really boils down to having a team that's willing to work together and continuously improve. And that continuous improvement is the big thing, is that we don't have a set goal in mind that we are going to be at X in 2016 and then we're never going to do anything again. Lean is really about continuous improvement and just realizing that you're constantly in the pursuit of perfection. If you're not improving, you're on the decline. So that's really some of the ideas behind that, with the continuous improvement and obviously training the employees.
Well, there you have it, folks. Continuous self-improvement and lean manufacturing. It's what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you, Sarah Atchison, and all your staff at Midwest Fire for your awesome commitment to improving first responder safety. I really appreciate your support of my mission. If you're interested in seeing the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop events, head over to the website, SA Matters, and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. The schedule is always changing, so check back often. I want to take a moment to share some feedback that I've received, and I don't share this feedback to brag. Rather, I do it to show my appreciation to those who are inspired to send me messages and take the time to send me some encouragement. I really appreciate it. So the first one comes from Drew Nichols. It says, "My name is Drew Nichols, and I attended your presentation on training for failure at Fire Rescue International in San Antonio. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing for the fire service, and I just ordered the DVD for my department." So thank you, Drew, for supporting me there. This one is from James Stiles. It says, "Thank you, Chief. It was great to see you in class. Vincennes is blessed to have your servant leadership because you're representing us well. We've learned and shared so many of your experiences so that our firefighters can go home, perceive, understand, and predict." That's the foundation of situational awareness he's referencing here. From Matthew Kidd, "Great day of situational awareness education. Thank you, Dr. Rich Gassaway." From Jason Stiles, "Rich, thanks to you and Patrick for your hard work and devotion to making a difference in the fire service. It was a great class. Learned a lot. Be safe. Watch out for those storms." This was our company officer development class. Anybody watching my social media knows that there were several tornado warnings while we were at class, and a little bit unnerving. This one from Jeff Need. As firefighters, we are definitely guilty of making plans before we even get to the fire, and that may be even the wrong plan. Good lesson shared from the class there. Jeff, thank you. And finally, Jason Weatherford. Thanks for the great class and making us think. I would recommend this class to anyone. Well, thank you, Jason, and I hope you do recommend it to some other folks. Hey, if you want to send me some feedback, just go to the Contact Us link on the SA Matters website. That sends an email directly to me. I'd appreciate hearing from you. Or you can send me feedback on social media as well. I'm on all the social media channels. I'll talk about that here in just a moment if you want to get connected with me on social media. So if you're not a member yet of the SA Matters community of learners, you can join. Go to the red box on the right side of the homepage. It says become a member. Membership's free. When you sign up, I'll send you a special report for the new members called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. If you join, I'm going to send you my weekly newsletter by email. It's a summary of that week's blog article and podcast, and there'll be some click-through links so you can read the article or listen to the podcast. It's just a way for us to stay in touch. I know you get busy. You're not going to visit the website every week. At least I don't think you would. I hope you'd have more of a life than to have to keep coming back to my website. So the newsletter is a way for us to stay connected. So if you're not a member, go to the SA Matters website and click on that red box on the right side of the homepage. Get connected on social media, on Twitter, at Rich Gasaway or at SA Matters on Twitter. If you follow both, you're going to get the same tweets twice. So I'd suggest you follow one or the other so you're not getting everything that I say 2 times. The SA Matters Twitter community between the 2 feeds is about 17,000, so thanks to those who are supporting the mission there. On LinkedIn, you can search Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn, get connected with me there. If you want to watch some videos, go to my YouTube channel, SA Matters TV on YouTube. Why so many platforms? The blog, the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, the online academy, live events, books, videos. Why so many? Because I know not every first responder consumes their content on the same platform. And I'm trying to reach you on whatever platform you most prefer. Well, that's it. Episode 126 is complete. Thank you to my guest, Birmingham Fire Department Assistant Chief Buddy Wilks. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. And thank you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of my mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.